Yeah, now it's 6 o'clock. I will let me start. Good evening, everybody, and welcome you all for this session, my continued session on Metaverse. And the whole intention of this series is to educate, create awareness about this Metaverse world or Metaverse technology, because it is going to be a part and parcel of each one of us, whether you are a student today, or a faculty today, or an institutional member, or an entrepreneur. Because the way internet happened in the 90s, smartphone happened in 2000, and cloud computing happened in the last 10 years, Metaverse is going to shape everything that we will be taking participation in. So with this intention, this series is started. And in the earlier session, actually, I was in the first session. Actually, I spoke about what is this metaverse and why is that we are creating it. And I talked about the vision that we are having with the metaverse. We are actually want to overcome this space gap, that challenge, so that we can come together in a particular space called virtual space and have a better interactions, rather than actually attending a Google Meet or other kind of online meetings, which actually makes us feel the difference. I mean, the separation that we normally have. For example, let us take the example of this meeting itself. Although we are on a digital platform, we still feel that the presenter is elsewhere and the attendee is elsewhere, and this distance will be overcome by metaverse. And then in the second session, I talked about NFT, that is non-fungible tokens, which are actually foundation of a metaverse economy. And today in the session, actually, I'll be talking about blockchain for the metaverse. So how blockchain is going to make a fundamental contribution to the metaverse, and why we need blockchain at all in the metaverse. So I will start with the idea of metaverse and how it is a combination of technologies, and how each technology is contributing towards building that metaverse. And finally, what is the expectation from the blockchain, and what are its intrinsic properties, and how these intrinsic properties are used in building certain utilities in the metaverse, which will help us to create what we call the digital economy, or the digital trading system. So the brief agenda that I have for today's presentation is very simple. I will be talking about the technologies. As we know that, like internet or cloud computing, metaverse is actually a combination of certain technologies. So each technology has some contribution to make. For example, the extended reality actually allows us to create virtual spaces. The 5G technologies will help us to give the bandwidth and the speed of communication. Artificial intelligence will help us to do certain things. Okay. And after that, I will be focusing on blockchain. What is its value proposition? So what is so special about blockchain, which can make some contribution to the creation of the metaverse? Then I will talk about what are the requirements of metaverse, which actually specifically met by the blockchain features. And finally, I will list certain examples of metaverse where actually blockchain is in action. So let me start with my basic picture. See, as you know that metaverse is actually a confluence of assorted set of technologies. For example, when you want to create metaverse, we need to use a set of technologies to build that metaverse. For example, we have artificial intelligence, we have cloud computing, we have extended reality. When we have Internet of Things, we need blockchain, and we have 5G. So earlier, actually, for example, this look at this, and each technology contributes to us one or more functionality. I want Metaverse to do certain thing, and a particular technology will do that for me. For example, one of the basic requirement of Metaverse is actually I have to create virtual space. So this is actually created by a technology called extended reality. We have augmented reality, we have virtual reality, and we have mixed reality. These three technologies help me create a virtual space, or what we call virtual reality. Why do I create this virtual space? Because I want to remove the distance or a space the gap between the people who are participating in a meeting. So once I create the virtual space, I will bring people to that space through their avatars, or the digital proxies of those people, by a process called teleportation, okay, or teleporting. So similarly, there is a second technology which we need for the creation of the metaverse, and that is called blockchain. So why do I use blockchain? Because blockchain provides a decentralized P2P network for value exchange. This is a key term in this, and this is very important because this is the difference between the current internet and the future internet. And we all know internet because since our birth we have been using. But essentially, internet is a network of information. So that means what you happens when you go to internet today is actually you get information. You actually browse and you search. So information in the internet today is captured in the terms of files, images, video. See, essentially what you can do on cloud computing, I mean on the internet today is either you search and download a file or upload a file and make it publicly accessible. So internet is essentially the network of information. Now, blockchain is also using the internet, but it creates value. So when you go to blockchain, you don't get information, you get value. How do you get? Instead of files, you have what we call tokens. So tokens are the essential items which are created on the blockchain, the way files are created on the internet. And digital tokens are also called cryptocurrencies because currency always means it has some value. And currency like the notes, digital instrument like checks and all, they have a value. And it is called crypto for a simple reason that actually it uses cryptography as a basic foundation of either creating an document or using a encrypting and decrypting. So in summary, we are using the same internet to create another value proposition using blockchain. Currently we are used to this internet for actually accessing information, but blockchain will help you to create, access, distribute and share the assets or the value on the internet. Due to certain capabilities of this blockchain, it has decentralization, security, and immutability. Blockchain is considered to be the perfect technology for managing all types of digital assets. This is also a key point. For example, since we are talking metaverse as a virtual world, everything is digital, so they are not physical. So for that reason, we need a different technologies to both create and manage them. And because blockchain is a network of value, we are going to use this in the building of the metaverse economy. And the reason why we are building it also very simple. So when we are creating a new world like metaverse, then we should make provision for everything that happens in the real world. For example, if I want people to migrate to metaverse, they want house to build. So we have a land. We have called decentralized land. Actually, we have a land there. Then we want people to play games. Okay, so we have created games on that. So essentially, what people want to do in the metaverse is very simple. So metaverse refers to virtual space created within the new internet using 3D technologies. 3D means it has a dimension. In the metaverse, user is immersed. So this is you remember. So either when you have a virtual reality or extended reality, people are immersed. That means they are taken away from the real world. So if you ask anybody who is playing a game with a headset, he is actually cut off from the real world. So this phenomenon is called immersed. Okay, and in order to make metaverse more popular, I have to create everything that a human does in the real world possible on the metaverse. So, for example, visit exciting locations. For example, I have to create a park in Metaverse so that people will visit there. I have to create a museum so people will visit there. Okay. For that, they have to pay entry fee. So look at this. I need some money, some kind of a money in the Metaverse. Okay. And people also want to go to Metaverse and meet other people. For example, they want to meet celebrity or they want to meet the cricketer, whatever that is. So for that, they need avatar. Again, this is another digital construction I have to create in a virtual space. For that also, I need some technology. They also want to buy works of art. For example, in the previous session, I told you NFT is one kind of an asset in the metaverse which people can buy and sell. Okay, and they also want to sell real estate. That means using cryptocurrency. For example, they can buy a plot and build a building around on it and sell it, or they can rent that piece of land for that. So all this needs some kind of financial backbone. So if you want to buy, I should have currency. If I have to create avatar, then I have to have some block identity. Okay, all this is needed, and hence this we are combining with the blockchain technology and creating another world. And if you are looking from the computer perspective, metaverse is essentially consists of hardware and software. Hardware would mean all this network, internet, and other things, and also like headsets or computer desktops and all, and the software. And the software that we want actually will help people to have contents available. For example, game is a content, okay, NFT is a content, okay, and dialogue is a content. So this content is the one which is actually the software part of the metaverse. And here comes the requirement. The metaverse software should be based on the blockchain technology for a simple reason, because I want it to be made accessible to everybody. Today, the internet is actually walled garden. That means the content of your, whatever the photos that you have in Facebook cannot be seen when you log into Gmail because they have a wall in between. It's called walled gardens. Now, if I use blockchain technology, then actually I can make it interoperable on any platform. So blockchain actually represents a secure, that means it's a security because it uses encryption, and decentralized, that means it is accessible from anywhere. For example, your friends on Facebook, you cannot access from your Gmail account, right? The reason is they are separated. But in case of a decentralized database, it is accessible from anywhere. For example, if you are playing a game, it is possible that you can fetch the addresses of all those friends that are of yours and send the game status to them. Okay. And also, I want a system which is single. That means duplication should not be there. For example, you have one Gmail account and you have another Gmail account on Yahoo and you have one more bank account and all. See, maintaining these many accounts is big challenge in the current internet. So Metaverse actually want to overcome this by having a single connectivity and which is dynamically updated. That means suppose you update your bank account phone number, then that should be updated in your college also or in the employee database also. So all this is possible if you are going to use blockchain. So again, I'll repeat. So we are using metaverse, blockchain for a simple and with a particular reason. It gives you a decentralized access mechanism so that you can move anywhere within the metaverse. So for people who don't know blockchain at all, essentially blockchain is actually a shared one. That means unlike your Facebook, Gmail, which are separate, it is a shared one. That means any user can share somebody with his permission, of course, and that is a shared database and immutable. This is one of the most important things. The reason why we have different data available across in different, for example, my date of birth say in LinkedIn may be different in what I have given in Facebook. Why does it happen? Because those records are not connected. But that will create also confusion. For example, if somebody is making a judgment on you based on your age, when they look at or Wikipedia, it shows a different date of birth, and if when you see actually your Facebook, it shows different. The reason because you are capable of creating different documents which reflects different data. Whereas in the blockchain, you will create only one record which is unchangeable. That means nobody can else. Nobody can actually change it. And for this reason, whatever the data is available uniquely, and it is a single data. That's called single source of information or single source of truth. Okay, and that is possible only on blockchain because the data which are the records which are created, they are immutable. And for this reason, actually, they will help you the tracking assets. That means you cannot say that I own this piece of land on Facebook, and you say I don't own this on your Google because the records are actually immutable. And it also helps you to create building trust. That means since these records are immutable, everybody would believe it, everybody will trust it, and it doesn't need a third person like bank and all. So because of these qualities, we have a distributed ledger technology. That means unlike there is one bank and one passbook for you, this will be a distributed that every user will have access to your bank account, of course, provided you give or you want to share them. And immutable records. And I will tell you there are smart contracts which are slightly sophisticated instruments in the blockchain. And again, the reason why I'm using blockchain because it gives me a mechanism to create an ecosystem for creating, owning, monetizing decentralized digital assets. For example, I told you in my earlier session actually, suppose if you are an author and if you gift one of your reader a book with an autographed copy of book, and that becomes an asset. But that asset that user can actually create on the blockchain as an NFT and own it or monetize. That means he can auction it and get money. And this is possible because blockchain will help you to create those documents. And the second thing actually is blockchain can function globally. That means it has no limitation and boundaries. It is not again accessible when you are in Facebook, but not accessible when you are accessible in Instagram. That is not there. It's globally accessible, and it's a decentralization. This is an important thing because it is enables P2P network connection. Because a user can directly contact another user and conduct a transaction without bank being involved or other parties being in mode. And remember one thing, metaverse is a virtual world. So that means we real people are not present there, but their proxies are acting on behalf of them. So this will cause lot of challenges for us because we want to deal with a person whom we have not seen. Okay, and even we are dealing with a person we don't know him directly because we know through his presentation like avatar and all. So this will create a lot of doubts in the minds of people because should I pay my money to him or not? Do I know whether this is actually reaching the right person or not? So there are a couple of risks and the challenges within the metaverse, which is actually solved by the blockchain. For example, the first probability that we have is called security. The fact that metaverse stores data measured in exabytes raises the question of safe storage, transmission, and synchronization. So the safe storage is another important. Many a times we hear that Facebook accounts are hacked and millions of users have lost their private data to the hands of hackers. Okay, because blockchain is a secure mechanism, cryptography, it gives you a lot of safe storage. Nobody else will hear that a Bitcoin or a blockchain which manages Bitcoin actually is hacked because it's impossible to hack it. Okay, and transmission. That means if I am sending you data from my machine to your machine, it should be transmitting in a very secure manner. Maybe today, if you are a WhatsApp user, you know that it displays a message like the messages on WhatsApp are encrypted end to end. That means when the message leaves your machine or your mobile, it is encrypted until it reaches its destination. So the first quality of blockchain, it provides you security so that any data that is stored is encrypted and stored in such a fashion that it cannot be understood or it cannot be leaked easily at all. And another important quality of blockchain is trust. And I told you in one of my earlier presentation, whenever a technology overcomes a barrier, it creates a revolution. For example, when internet came into that, actually what it eliminated is the distance. Now actually a server in America is as near to me as a server in my college because through internet I can access both of them. Okay. So similarly, before the blockchain came, we had one problem. That means we always need a third party to make our agreement. For example, if I want to a piece of land, then I go to a land register office and get it signed on a on a stamp paper. Why do I buy stamp paper? Because government will act as a witness in case of something goes wrong in that. Similarly, when I want to pay money to somebody else, they would normally ask for a check. Why do they ask? Because they don't trust me, but they trust bank. Hence, they ask for a check. So now there was a trust gap between people. Hence, we needed intermediates like banks, our government agencies. Now, in case of blockchain, that is ruled out because that is not needed because whatever the documents which is the transactions created by the blockchain actually they are immutable. That means once created, they are committed forever. They will not change. Okay. And third important thing is decentralization. That means data is not available only at one location. For example, all your data is stored in a particular university or a bank. If the server gets crashed, that means your data is lost forever. Whereas in blockchain, every node, that means every machine will actually maintain a copy of the document. So that means there is no chance that all the data in the world will be corrupted at one point. So it is not possible. Okay. So because of these qualities, actually now we have created additional instrument using blockchain called smart contracts. So smart contracts are very simple things. They are actually codes which execute themselves. Today what happens is assume that for example, you enter an agreement with your landlord where actually you rent your house or you get his house rented. For 12 months you have to enter an agreement and you have to pay the rent every month on 5th. Today now we will enter an agreement and we will make a financial transaction based on our bank. But suppose you have created a smart contract, you can write a code which says that on the 5th of every month, you initiate this particular program which will ask your bank to pay that money to your owner's account and it directly transfers that amount. So this is actually coded on blockchain using crypto technologies so that nobody can change it. So for next 11 months, whether you like it or not, every month on 5th, your money is actually removed from your account and put it onto this. But I'm telling you a very simple example. But this can be used for any complex, sophisticated agreements. That means you have to pay EMI for next 48 months. You can have a smart contract which actually can be trusted both by the bank and yourself, so that nobody can change that contract after once it is written. Interoperability is one which I've been already telling you. You cannot move between your Facebook and Gmail because they are not interoperable. Similarly, you cannot move your content from one database to another one because it's not interoperable. But essentially, cloud when Metaverse will make it interoperable so that you can use it from any Metaverse or any company's one. Finally, money relationship, that payments and recoveries are the receivables. Actually, you can use blockchain. Finally, some activities or the actions which are created using blockchain in the metaverse. People who play games know that actually there are many in-game assets that you have to buy. For example, you can buy an avatar, you can buy an instrument, you can buy a bullet, and all those things. One of the greatest problems in today's gaming, actually, if you are playing one particular game and you have assets, if you leave that game, you cannot carry that assets. The reason why? Because they are confined to that particular metaverses. But in the ideal metaverse, you should be able to carry that assets from a game to another game. It is something like this. In India, if you have rupees, there is a way to convert them into dollar and go to America. Okay, but that is possible in the real world. But in the metaverse, currently it is not possible for a simple reason that they are not interoperable. But when you start using blockchain currencies like Bitcoin and all, they should be valid everywhere across. So one of the applications is actually in-game assets using blockchain. Virtual currencies, you anyway, you want to pay, like Bitcoin itself is an example. Okay. And NFTs are a special category properties which have a uniqueness. For example, it can be a signed copy of a particular author, or it could be a specific photograph taken by a particular famous photographer and other things. Okay. And another last but important thing is actually self-identity authentication. I told you everybody is represented by an avatar in the metaverse, and we don't actually know the real identity of that person. But when it comes to finances or some real world actually interactions, we must be assured of that person, who the person is, and whether that credentials are correct or not. So now we have something called self-identity authentication using what we call zero proof algorithms we can create, that is again based on the blockchain technology. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. So blockchain is one of the fundamental technology, and metaverse itself is a combination or assemblage of many technologies. Each technologies are used for a particular purpose, whereas extended reality is used to create virtual spaces. Blockchain is created to create an economic foundation so that people can start trading them. Trading would mean buying and selling, owning, creating, and other things. Okay, now I will come to your tab and see that are there any questions that you are going to ask. Okay. Okay, so let me start answer your question. The first question actually comes from Vignesh. Today, AR, VR devices are so expensive. Do you think they need to become more accessible for metaverse truly to take off? This question is yes, because see, even if you know about mobiles also, when mobiles came into being, even currencies were very expensive. People used to buy only incoming calls, not an outgoing calls. But within 5 years, today the data and call rates are so low that anybody is buying. Even with the mobile handsets, when they come for the first time, they were costing in like 50, 60, 70,000. Today we have an entry model mobile which will cost you less than 10,000. So Vignesh, the answer to your question is this: yes, the industry is working in terms of reducing the cost of AR and VR. Okay, and they will come down. But there's another trend also that is happening in the metaverse. Now we are also trying to make the web browser itself a delivery mechanism for metaverse experiences. That means you don't need a VR or AR device at all. Third one is actually there is also movement to support the legacy system. That means if you already have a mobile, we are building some capabilities to mobile itself so that it can be used for experiencing AR and VR contents. Okay, So the second question, that why do we need decentralization for metaverse? Okay, the answer is very simple. Okay, another question is, can we have metaverse without blockchain? Okay, so let me answer about decentralization first thing. Okay, see, today's world actually is centralized. That means unless there is a centralized institution like government or a bank or a university, nothing will happen. Okay, so this is a fundamental limitation in our activities, because unless, I mean, if you want to do something, we need their permission, their approval, their certificate, and so on. For people who actually want freedom, this is not a good thing. But let me tell you, say about 100, I mean, 2 or 300 years back, there were kings and who were ruling us. When the idea of democracy was instituted, I mean, was actually proposed, people were worrying, okay, what is this democracy? Why do we need it at all? But now, 200 years down the line, we have a democratic setups in many countries, including in India. So, what was the beauty of democracy? Democracy actually removed the power from one king or one queen and put it back to the, I mean, to the entire population or the entire people. Similarly, decentralization will help us to get the control of your content and activities on the internet back to the user. That means today, Facebook can sell your personal information to anybody without you knowing or without knowing it. But in Metaverse, if it is decentralized use, nothing can happen unless you permit it to them. Okay, that's one thing. Second, can we have blockchain without, I mean, sorry, metaverse without blockchain? Yes, you can have, but that becomes only a gaming metaverse. That means you cannot have any serious transaction in that, because if money is not there in the particular context, and the number of activities that can happen will be very less, because actually it will be zero, right? Somebody cannot sell anything, somebody cannot create anything. So you can create a metaverse without blockchain, but the functionalities will be very limited, and more, I mean, very few people will be attracted to that. Okay. 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 Anmol is asking, how can the network dynamically update when each person can have so many accounts? I didn't understand the point, sir. I will let me explain you. Okay. We have too many accounts today because we have too many different companies on the internet, and those companies don't allow us to interoperate between uh, one platform to another platform, because there is no reason why Facebook will not allow me to use my LinkedIn login. Okay, the reason is they have built a walled gardens. But when metaverse will come into action, Anmol, what actually happens? We will have one digital identity which can be shared across all the platforms. That means if you are creating a crypto wallet, then you are sharing the same one which will be verified because it's on a blockchain. Again, if you are creating another account on another metaverse or another web property, then it will be used. Today we are not having it for a simple reason that these different companies like Facebook and all don't allow us to use the same identity on different places. Okay, I think I have made the point clear. Well, and another question somebody by name L is asking, cyberbullying can be a huge problem into metaverse, right? What do you think can be done about it? Okay, see, bullying is actually a human nature, and it is not inherent property of a particular technology, metaverse or something. Okay, there was bullying in the internet, even there was bullying even before we had technologies. So, having said that, yes, the scope of bullying in the metaverse is very high. Okay, but then there are mechanisms which are built. For example, assume that there are two people through their activity, through their avatars attending a meeting. Okay, it is possible to think that for some reason they want to fight with each other and they start hitting each other. Okay, this is not. I mean, this is prevented by using what technology called separation of the avatars. See, for example, if you are facing, I mean, if you are following the Facebook metaverse and all, what they have done is they've ensured that two avatars cannot come within the range of 4 feet. That means if an avatar is standing at a location and another avatar cannot come within the 4 feet of that one. That means the physical distance. I mean, a kind of a distance is maintained so that they cannot hit each other. So the answer to your question, cyberbullying, is that cyberbullying is a problem. The mechanisms have been built for both prevention and control of them. Okay, so another question by Saroja. What sort of regulation do you think governments will put on the metaverse? Okay, see, metaverse is an emerging technology. Okay, and now being once it becomes popular and once it gets the traction, government it will attract the attention of the government, and it will certainly come with certain restrictions. Okay, but there are different views towards this. For example, in the internet, actually, when countries like India and they started using internet, we did not put any restrictions on the foreign companies coming to India. Okay, we never thought that we have either right to do that or there is a reason to prevent the international internet companies to operate on it. But if you look at China, they took a different thing. The way they approach is actually the way we have physical sovereignty. That means India is known by its geography and its borders. So if somebody from Bangladesh is entering, he needs a visa and get into country, right? Okay. Similarly, if some foreign companies want to do business in India, they have to take the permission of the government and get into that. So China came out with a principle called internet sovereignty. That means if Google want to operate in China, they need to take permission and do that. And that's the reason none of the West, I mean, many of the Western companies, I mean, the internet companies not accessible in China for a simple reason that it doesn't allow because China recognizes internet as its entire, I mean, country as an internet sovereign country. So to answer to your question, actually, the regulations will be in the making. So that means as the metaverse progresses, governments will also think on this and they will make a continuous progress on this. So if you want a specific answer from the Indian angle, India is already working on that. For example, India, we have I mean, a plan called Digital India, where actually we already built some internet properties for everybody. For example, we have an Aadhaar card, which works as a web identity, which is a digital one. We have a DigiLocker, which will help us to create documents and store documents on our account, which is protected by our Aadhaar. Okay. Similarly, we have UPI, which helps us to connect our bank account and do that one. Similarly, we have called consent layer in the top of our digital India, which actually has all the provisions of controlling data accessed by other people. I hope Saroja have answered your question. Okay. Any more questions from anybody? Okay. And okay, now I'll go back and show you. Okay. So next session, I'll be talking about this. Okay. I'll be talking on the 8th of June. Okay. 8th June, I'll be talking about how does this extended reality will work in the metaverse. So I'll be taking technology by technology. Actually, I should have started with extended reality, but then I started with blockchain. But thank you very much for asking the very penetrating question. But that is my mission and venture that I should clarify your things. But I take it from me that metaverse is going to be an interesting thing, both as a career path, as an utility for you, or for your parents, your organization, and all. And I expect you for participate in the sessions all the time. So keep asking questions. Most of my presentations are actually designed for my student in my college, but I don't mind sharing with the rest of people like Anmol, Uddhav, Saroj, and Vignesh. Thank you very much for asking very pertinent questions. Okay, thank you. So Vignesh is asking next time, can you also show us some metaverse, sir? See, okay, metaverse examples I can show you. Let me see actually how that can be actually posted on this particular this one. Okay, but then actually I can tell you certain examples which actually help you to create metaverse thing. For example, I do conduct a lab sessions for my students using the Spark AR, where actually I will create some digital content and put it on the individual and all. Maybe I will try to do that. Okay. Or Vignesh, if you can share your email ID, I can send that 2 or 3 minutes video where you can see that how we are trying to implement. Okay. But full scale yeah, metaverse I may not be able to show you because if I want to enter show you decentralized, then I have to log in using my cryptocurrency or crypto wallet, which I can do, but whether you can access from your place during this presentation, I'm not very sure. But I will check it by next time. Okay. Definitely I'll do it with Vignesh. Okay. Okay. So any more questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I will end the session. Thanks for participating. Keep coming to my sessions every week. Okay. maybe next week I'll meet again and I'll talk about extended reality. So thank you, Mr. Uddhav, Anmol, Saroja, Vignesh, and all others who may be participating but not ask the question. I'm thanking them also. And also the organizers, and the person who is actually helping from the theater club. Okay, thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye. Okay. Bye-bye.